So, as a lot of you guys know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president as a Democrat. I will be voting my ass off for him in the primary. That's it. That's my full endorsement. I'll probably be voting third party in the primary or in the general election because I'm not voting for Trump or Biden. But in the primary, I will be voting for Robert F. Kennedy. If you like Robert F. Kennedy and you're like, I don't think he can win. I've heard that from a few people, especially in Texas. Like, I don't think he can win. I don't think he can win. Doesn't matter. If you have an open primary state, if you're registered as an independent like me or a Democrat or a Republican, you can vote in all the primaries. So if you're in an open primary state, Texas is one. I have a lot of followers in Texas. Texans, if you like this show, you probably like what Robert F. Kennedy is about. That means you can go out in the open primary, even if you're a Republican, and vote for Robert F. Kennedy in the Democratic primary. Take your time. Do it. It is if for no other reason than to just make Biden look like an asshole. If you can do it, if you have the ability to do it, if you have the time to do it, go do it. It actually means a lot. It upsets the Democratic establishment. And just like the Republican establishment, it needs to be upset. It's better for everyone for us to have two robust parties. And that is not being done by the establishment. Let's liberate ourselves from this bullshit. That's all I have to say about that. Now, moving on. my brief endorsement of Robert F. Kennedy. God, I wish I could work on his campaign. It'd be so fun. But we're going to have some Democrat DNC talking head here on Fox News. I don't know why she's there, but just she clowns herself. But I want you to look at some of this polling, right? So you'll see this line coming up and up again as a form of manipulation, right? It's some NLP, neuro linguistic programming. It's whenever you hear about Marianne Williamson or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you have this long shot candidate. You'll see a lot right in front of his name. Just look it up. Just Google it. Google RFK Jr. Presidential bid. You'll see all these political articles, hit pieces, long shot candidate, anti-vax candidate, not legitimate candidate, right? Now they'll treat someone like Ron DeSantis as a legitimate candidate in the Republican primary, even though he gets like 14% in polling, right? So if we're saying, okay, where's the bar? Because they're going to treat people like Nikki Haley, who's at like 1%, as a serious candidate on the Republican side, right? So that's serious because for whatever reason. Let's look at the polling here that Fox News shares about the Democratic primary.
We can pop some of this up. New Fox polling shows that while Biden is backed by 62% of Democratic primary voters, his challengers, Robert Kennedy Jr. and Marianne Williamson, have a combined 28%. I mean, that's not an also ran number. That's a significant number. That's almost a third of voters are looking at somebody else in the race, whether they would choose those two or not. They're looking at somebody else. Your thoughts?
There are also polls that came out recently that show President Biden absolutely crushing former President Donald.
So she didn't address it at all. She said there's also polls showing Biden beating Trump, which is highly unlikely given the way things have gone. Doesn't address it at all. They do not even address this at all. Again, this is a form of manipulation. I'm not bringing this up to get political. That's not what this is about. Look at how little these people think of you. Look at how little you think these people, they say things like, we're going to protect democracy. Our democracy is important. When it came to the January 6th stuff, our democracy is under threat. Our democracy is always under threat when all the Democratic establishment does is try to circumvent democracy. They don't want you to have options. They want to make the choice for you and then let you know what it is. It's gaslighting. The Republicans do it too. You think Tucker's gone from Fox for no reason? Come on, man. Come on, man. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Listen, this is wild. It's absolutely wild. 19%. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does not even have merch yet. I tried to buy it from his website. The dude doesn't even have merch, and he's at 19%. That's a real chance. That is a real chance. And they'll do everything they can to avoid the democratic process by not doing debates. I'm not even confident that Biden can say his ABCs, guys. But we look at this and we got to be able to sniff this stuff out. He's not a long shot candidate. He is a viable candidate for the Democratic nomination for president. He is a viable candidate. He's one of the only, listen to this, like things that if you're like me, right, we all kind of have this anti-authoritarian bend to us, right? Well, where's the authoritarian overreach come from? The intelligence community it owns both political parties, corporate interests, right? Who has a track record of confronting these things in a productive way? Who has a track record of confronting these things in a productive way? An environmental lawyer who's dealt with regulatory capture at the EPA, right? And has seen that trend and seen that pattern and fought against it, whose uncle and likely his father were killed by these intelligence communities. It's all but fact at this point, right? If you think Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, you're on meth. So when I look at this and I say, well, this woman here can't even say, hey, here's what Biden's done. Here's why Biden's the right candidate. She can't even respect you enough to make that claim or attempt to make a claim. She turns it to who? The Orange Man, Operation Warp Speed guy. The guy who started writing blank checks to the pharma industry. Yes, that's right. Everybody's favorite, Donald Trump. Don't forget. Never forget. That's where that came from. The guy that didn't fire Anthony Fauci. Right? So when you look at somebody who speaks from your principles, we got to think about this. Is it a long shot? Sure, maybe. But at 19% after a weekend with no real media appearances outside of just a couple of small outlets and an announcement? And the way that all the media that we despise, all the people that are interested in us hating each other and hating our neighbors, and all of these folks, right? They're either hardcore Biden or hardcore Trump in a lot of ways. And who's outside of that? Who's outside of that? That's what I'm looking at. And no one wants to make that. We don't want to make an argument based on substance. They want to distract. Let's continue.
Trump. Look, the reality is we're going to have another matchup in 2024 between likely President Biden and President Donald Trump. And I think the results
I know
will
you want
be
it
the
to
same.
be him. And I believe
And
you
that's what it's
believe
going
that
to
it will be.
And I don't think that, I know you guys on the far right really want Ron DeSantis to be the nominee, but I don't think he has the charisma, personality to beat out
in terms of
the
you guys.
entertainer-in-chief.
I know that wasn't
Donald
meant
Trump.
for me.
I think it's going to be Trump, and I think it's going to be Biden, and it's going to be a matchup, and the results will be the same.
So, and hopefully, okay,
the results will be the same.
So look,
delusion.
How fair is it that there wouldn't even be a debate? That the Biden.
How fair is it? Now, this guy who posted this is a like a lefty. It's trash. Like this you read down here, it's just like it's absurd. Their main point here was this woman, I forget her name, calling herself a journalist. That's what they pointed out. How fair is it? That's a real question, though. How fair is it for you and me, as citizens of the United States of America, that we don't get to choose whether or not there's a debate? Don't you think that that's up to us whether we want to see a debate or not? I want to see that corpse up there trying to defend himself. I want to see him ask challenging questions. He didn't even make his announcement for president in a live rally like most presidents do. He did it in a Twitter video that could be edited. And they still delusionally think that he's the best chance they have to beat Donald Trump, who's very likely to be the candidate. And then what do we get after that, right? If we think deeper about this, what do we get after that? More division, more hate your neighbor, more threats to democracy. But this whole time, we'll have RFK Jr. looking at this whole situation, and you might be convinced not to get out and vote in a primary because you think he's a long shot and that he can't win. But if you like him and he aligns with your principles and you don't take that time to go do that, maybe you're just part of the problem. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you don't really give a just a thought.